These aren't just inconveniences, they're human rights violations.
Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Katie, and for those of you who don't know me, I used to weigh 360 pounds, and I've lost 180 pounds and kept it off for years now. And on this channel, we will discuss weight loss, weight maintenance, nonsense I see online about body positivity and fat acceptance, my experiences with all of that, and well, anything else I feel like talking about. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below, and let's get into today's video. So today I have a TikTok from our friend to the channel, J-Bay, and she's promoting a brand new petition for this year, so I figure we'll go ahead and watch this together and I'll give you my reactions along the way.
I'm dedicating 2025 to fighting for the Fat Equality Bill of Rights, and I want you to be part of this revolution. Every day, fat individuals face barriers that nobody should have to live with. Whether it's being turned away from a doctor's office, not fitting into seats on public transportation, or being unfairly judged in the workplace. These aren't just inconveniences, they're human rights violations.
Human rights violations? Is she literally equating not being able to fit on an airplane seat with a human rights violation? Oh my goodness, this is starting to get beyond understanding at this point. So let's go ahead and look at the instances she listed. Getting turned away at the doctor's office. So is it also a human rights violation if people don't have health insurance? And they can't go to the doctor like at all? Couldn't even make an appointment with a doctor to get turned away from? Or is it just a human rights violation if someone is too large for an MRI machine and has to go elsewhere for that test or procedure? Or if they get told, hey, you need to lose weight in order to have this procedure or surgery done? Or with the conditions and the symptoms that you have, weight loss should be a part of your treatment. Because I'm genuinely curious what our friend means when she says getting turned away from doctor's offices. Because I'll tell you this. When I didn't have health insurance, I could definitely say I got turned away numerous times. It was not fun to go through. I'll definitely admit that. Okay, so the last time this happened, this was actually right after my daughter was born. She was about 2 weeks old, and I had to go back into my OBGYN numerous times for blood pressure checks and other checkups from complications that I had during pregnancy and during childbirth with, well, both my kids. Let's just say this, I did not have a good time at all being pregnant either time, but I love my kids dearly. I'm glad they're here, but being pregnant was absolutely awful for me, okay? And after my daughter was born, I had to go in for a blood pressure check, and like I said, she's about 2 weeks old, and my son was about 13 months old, so I've got both babies with me at this doctor's appointment. I go in, and evidently, like, something had gotten screwed up in between the time that I had given birth and the time that I went in for this checkup, and my health insurance was giving me fits. So I had to call and get it all sorted out, which I did, but I didn't know at the time when I walked into that appointment that something had gotten screwed up that was going to need to be corrected. And so I go in, I sign in, and next thing I know, the receptionist at the front desk. Now, mind you, literally the only people that work in this office were my doctor and this lady at the front desk. And she starts screaming at me that I don't have insurance and they're not going to be able to take me and that I needed to get out. I mean, she screamed it so loudly that everybody else who was in that waiting room, and quite frankly, probably everyone else who was in the back, absolutely heard her. I still, to this day, cannot believe that happened. Like, absolutely blows my mind that happened. So, I mean, quite frankly, I was not going to go back to that doctor's office no matter what. Even after I got my insurance straightened out, there was no way in hell I was going back to that doctor's office. So I found a new OBGYN and been with them ever since. So yeah, that's what I think of when I hear getting turned away from a doctor's office. And yeah, that's happening. I would definitely agree that's not good and that should not be happening, because I would have to believe that was at least a HIPAA violation what happened to me, let alone how many other ethical violations that was, but I digress. So that being said, turned away from doctors' offices, does that mean they're getting told to lose weight? as part of their treatment, or maybe to have a procedure done or have a surgery done, or that would be the best course of action for them. I mean, what does she mean when she says turned away from a doctor's office? Because if you're going to use these bold statements like this is a human rights violation, then I would think that there would at least be one or maybe even two examples that our friend could provide for this. So I'm genuinely curious what she means by that. If she's meaning that people are getting told to leave and not come to the doctors, then yeah, that would be a problem. But if they're getting told to lose weight, I don't think that's getting turned away from the doctors. And then let's see, public transportation. Okay, is she really equating not being able to sit in an airplane seat with a human rights violation? Because the last I checked, flying is not a necessity. I mean, if it is, magically, myself and countless others who have never been on a plane have somehow avoided that necessity in our lives. I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that there are a lot of times that people do use it beyond just travel. They are going to see family, or they need to travel for work, or maybe even they join the military or something like that. So I do understand where people do use airline travel outside of just vacations and pleasure. Don't get me wrong. But I also know that that's what our friend centers all of her content around. She's a plus-size travel blogger. That's like her whole gag. She travels to these locations and then she complains about accommodations or the size of airline seats everywhere she goes. That's like what she's built her platform off of. So it's hard for me to think that she is using this out of necessity. And if this is not a necessity, then how on earth could it be a human right? I'm genuinely curious. I'm not even trying to be sarcastic on this one. If it's not a necessity, how on earth is it a human right? And then unfair judgment at the workplace. Well, I gotta say, whether or not something is fair or unfair, once again, that's always going to be subjective. They always have these subjective moving targets. So that way they can say, well, this is unfair, or you judged me incorrectly. And in reality, there is no way that you can actually quantify these things, let alone quantify it into legal language to be able to make a law or an act that's going to go in place and actually be enforceable. So I'm genuinely curious what she would think would be unfair judgment in the workplace. Because what I find unfair and what she finds unfair, I'm sure it's going to be wildly different when we're talking about the topic of weight. I mean, let's be fair. But without any examples whatsoever, just to say these things are human rights violations, I'm going to wholeheartedly disagree.
The Fat Equality Bill of Rights is a critical step towards changing all of that. It's a set of protections designed to ensure fat people are treated with the same respect, dignity, and access to basic rights as everybody else.
But they do have the same access to basic rights as everyone else. Whatever country you're a citizen of, you have the same rights as everyone else. Unless our friend, again, would like to provide an example. Does she have any laws or ordinances or policies anywhere that she could point to where, I don't know, if you have a BMI above 50, that you don't have the same rights as someone else, or that you wouldn't be considered a citizen? Because I can think of none. Not a single one. So again, if I am mistaken, please let me know down in the comments below. But I honestly cannot think of a single one. So they have the same basic rights as everyone else. And as far as the amount of space you get on an airplane, one ticket is one ticket. Everyone gets the same amount of space with that one ticket. If you require the space of 2 or 3 tickets, then you have to purchase that. Or apparently just fly Southwest and hopefully you can use the customer size policy. But other than that, you have the same things as everyone else. And it's not good enough. She wants more. She always wants more. And not just her, so many others within these movements. That's what they want. They want more. It's not good enough that they have the same thing as everyone else. They believe that they should have more so that way they can have the same level of comfort as everyone else. Where I'm sorry, comfort is not a human right. It's nice. It's lovely. It's wonderful. It truly is. But comfort is not up for others to provide for you. It is up for you to provide to yourself. Am I just supposed to walk into a store and say, hey, give me your comfy clothes because I demand comfort? No, I mean, as fun as that would be, and I mean, believe me, if it actually worked, I would be doing that. But as fun as that would be, it does not work. I'd have to go in and purchase what I wish and what would be comfortable for me, right? And that's why this is just such nonsense to me. And then she also wants protections for dignity and respect, which again are going to be very subjective. And unless you're dealing with like extremes on one side or another, you'll often have a huge middle ground of gray area where people will not come to a consensus as to whether or not that thing is dignified or respectful or fair or whatever the case may be. And I feel like they pick these words and these terms on purpose so that way they can keep moving the goalposts. And anytime that something happens that they don't agree with, they can sit there and dig in their heels and say, you're not treating me with dignity and respect. Because at the end of the day, who does our friend think is going to be enforcing this? Does she really think that our current law enforcement agencies should be the ones to, I don't know, be in charge of dignity and respect? Because, I mean, I don't know about where the rest of you live, but in my city, well, law enforcement takes up a huge chunk of my city budget. And, well, they don't really do a whole lot to stop crime, but if you have a broken taillight, they may go ahead and unload 90 into you. And I'm not really sure how else I can word it without like the hammer coming down on me, if you can understand that. But knowing what has happened in just my own city, and that event that I was just talking about literally happened like around the corner from my house. And it was so unbelievably disturbing and unsettling to know that that happened right there. To know that it happened at all was terrible enough, but to know that it's a place that I have to drive by all the time, yeah, incredibly unsettling. And what? She wants law enforcement to have more authority to come after people and say that, oh, we're not treating this person with respect. And then what? And then what? Because I've already seen what use of force can lead to. So maybe I don't personally agree with giving more authority to law enforcement at this point, personally. I don't know. So again, she wants these protections for things that are completely subjective, hasn't given any examples as to how these are actual human rights violations and not the inconveniences that she claims they aren't. And again, I can't get over, who does she want to enforce this? Like, how on earth would that even be able to be enforced? I don't know. Let's see if she clears any of this up.
And it's time to make this a reality. Just like the civil rights movements that have reshaped history, we're fighting for a world where fat people are treated with fairness, not just tolerance. This is about the right to exist without fear of discrimination, exclusion, or ridicule.
Did she just literally compare fat acceptance to the civil rights movement? Okay, I thought the human rights violation was bad enough. This one has me speechless. Legitimately speechless. Literal civil rights. Can our friend here at all point out where fat people were ever denied the right to vote, denied citizenship, allowed to be held in slavery, segregation, debt peonage, like so many atrocities that have happened that necessitated civil rights movements? That, I'm sorry, not being able to sit on an airplane seat or somebody making a rude comment to you because you're fat, that is nowhere near on the same level as what necessitated the civil rights movements. Can our friend point out where it was debated in the Constitution whether or not fat people should be citizens? Can she point out where they've ever been barred from buying property and redlined from entire neighborhoods? Because, I mean, again, if she's going to use this type of language, it needs to be held to that level of scrutiny. Because it's not just civil rights movements that I've seen them sidle up with, but also disability rights movements as well. And it's almost like they're trying to leech off the credibility of those movements. And I've seen them do that with their language and their tactics and so many other things. But to position themselves as victims in the same light as those that have gone through civil rights abuses and human rights violations, I mean, this is just so ridiculous to me. And her own language is basically giving her away at this point. It's telling me so much more than I think our friend realizes. She says that these aren't just inconveniences, that they're human rights violations, and that their cause is in line with the civil rights movement. It just kind of shows me that our friend is thinking in extremes, that she went from an inconvenience to a human rights violation, skipped over a whole bunch in the middle, like bad or terrible or shitty or really awful, like so many other things in the middle between inconvenience and human rights violations. And then to sit there and compare the fat acceptance movement to the civil rights movements. I know we do a really dog shit job of teaching our history in America. I know we do, because I know what I have had to learn since I left school. And it's just really telling to me how awful the education really is in this country if she's going to sit there and compare her movement with civil rights movements. Just, again, I would love if our friend could name one law anywhere that prevented fat people from doing, well, literally anything. One law, anywhere. I will accept just one, because we could fill entire volumes with all the laws that were created for other individuals in this country. But yeah, clearly they're on the same level as the civil rights movements. I'm just still completely appalled by that. I don't know, maybe she explains this further.
It's a civil rights issue, and it's time for change. And here's what the Fat Equality Bill of Rights could change for you. This bill will protect fat individuals in every area of life, from healthcare to employment, transportation to education. Imagine walking into a doctor's office and not fearing weight bias. Imagine sitting on a plane without embarrassment, or shopping in a store that actually carries your size. These are the changes we're fighting for.
Those are the changes she's fighting for. And again, she is comparing this to civil rights movements, where people literally lost their lives or were severely beaten up or thrown in jail or so many other things because they were just, trying to vote or sit on a bus or use a drinking fountain or go to a school. But imagine you could go to the doctor's office and not face weight bias. So that would indicate to me that they're not getting turned away from the doctor's office. That her example that she gave at the beginning really was that they were getting told to lose weight. Not getting literally kicked out of a doctor's office like what happened to me. I gotta say, those things are not even comparable. They're just not. Plenty of times I've gone to the doctor and heard things I didn't necessarily want to hear. Didn't make them any less true, but I mean, I get it. It's not fun to hear things you don't want to hear. I didn't want to hear that I have a whole bunch of chronic conditions that there's really no cure or actual viable treatments for, and I just have to manage my symptoms the rest of my life. Didn't really want to hear that, but I do have to be honest, it was better than some of the other potential outcomes that it could have been. But I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear to lose weight. I didn't want to hear that some of the things I might have been doing in my life were not conducive to a healthy lifestyle. There's a lot of things I've been told at doctors that I didn't want to hear. But again, that didn't make any of that any less true. And okay, sitting on an airplane without embarrassment, I don't even know how to respond to some of this after a certain point, because it's coming from such a place of privilege. This notion and this idea that everybody just routinely flies, and this is just such a common problem that I'm going to sit up thinking about it at night, knowing I've never been on an airplane once in my life, and I am certainly not alone in this. It just is absolutely mind-boggling to me that they think this is just an everyday problem that we're all just walking around and can't believe that we're just dealing with, right? Embarrassment? It's only embarrassing if you're embarrassed, first off. And second off, it's not a human right to live a life free from embarrassment. Believe me, I have done plenty of embarrassing things in my life. I'm sure I will do plenty more embarrassing things in my life. And that's the best thing I can tell you is it's only embarrassing if you're embarrassed. If you laugh it off, you can take the piss out of it. It's fine. Totally fine. So that's, again, on the same level with the civil rights movement and a human rights violation. Embarrassment. And then, oh, that's right, being able to go into a store and buying your size. Gotta be honest, I find it very odd that this is one of the hills they're willing to die on within these movements. Being able to find their size in store. It's almost like they don't pay any attention to retail or the actual retail landscape. Brick and mortar stores are closing all over the place. I mean, Party City is closing. Big Lots is maybe closing. I'm not really sure. I know that they were closing, but stores all over the place are closing. We already lost Kmart. We lost Sears. We lost Toys R Us. We lost KB Toys. We lost so many stores that I have grown up with. They're long gone. And there's not new stores necessarily replacing them. What's replacing them is online shopping. That's what's replacing so much retail right now. Brick and mortar's going away. And then I watched the two largest malls in the area, Rolling Acres and Randall Park Mall. Both of them went through their decline, their period of being a dead mall, their period of being completely vacant, and the urban explorers going through and getting pictures. And now they're both Amazon fulfillment centers. So I find it just very odd that that's one of the hills they're willing to die on, that they need to be able to go in store and buy their clothes. When in reality, that's something that's kind of going away for all of us. I know when I go to the one mall that is left in my city, it's not what it used to be, not even 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And it's certainly not at all what it used to be when I was growing up in the 80s and 90s. That's for damn sure. So I'm genuinely curious why they are just fighting so hard for something that is dying as it is.
The Fat Equality Bill of Rights isn't just a piece of paper. It's a movement that will reshape how society views, treats, and accommodates fat people.
Does she really think that she'll be able to legislate how people think? Because if she's going to align herself at all with civil rights movements, then she might want to understand that fact. That just because something is in law doesn't mean that all of a sudden racism went away. I mean, come on, we're still dealing with racism in 2025 now, right? So, does she really think that that is actually going to change how people view this? Especially knowing that there are health consequences to being obese and morbidly obese. Ignoring all of that, conveniently, of course. Yeah, I'm going to say absolutely it's just a piece of paper. Maybe it's not even a piece of paper. Maybe it's the landlord special and they just want to paint over everything. That's what it exactly feels like. But deep down, she's not actually going to change how people see this. She's not going to change people's thoughts with a piece of paper. She really is not. So yes, it is just a piece of paper. I mean, if there's actually some teeth to it to where they could enforce some things, then I understand that they might actually be able to enforce some of that. But it's not going to actually change what people think below the surface. It'll just change how they act in public so they don't get in trouble.
It will make the world more accessible, fair, and inclusive for all of us. But I can't do this alone. 2025 will be my year of fighting for body justice, and I'm bringing all of you with me. I'm committing to this fight because I believe in a world where fat people are equal, and accessible isn't just possible, it's necessary. So let's make it happen. Sign the petition, share your stories, and let's push for the Fat Equality Bill of Rights to become a law, because your body deserves justice. We deserve justice. So join me. Head to change.org/fatequality and let's make 2025 the year we change everything for everybody.
Oh my goodness. The language that she has used in this is so self-aggrandizing. I can't even begin to wrap my mind around it at this point. Okay, we've got body justice, justice for everybody. She's talking about how fair and inclusive this world's going to be, right? Also throwing out that she wants a revolution and the Fat People's Bill of Rights. I mean, like, this language, really? Why? Because she wants airplane seats to be a little bit larger? Because she wants stores to carry her size, and she wants doctors to not tell her to lose weight. And she does want this to be a law. She wants this to be enforced. And that's why not only our friend here, but so many within fat acceptance especially, are so hell-bent on changing the hearts and minds of all society. They think they're going to be able to legislate away all of this discrimination, or they think they're going to be able to change everyone's mind if they just use the right combination of words, because they have ignored all of the health implications that come along with this, and they've also ignored the idea that they have done this to themselves in so many cases, that their lifestyle and their lifestyle choices have led them to disability, have led them to being excluded from the rest of society. And so therefore, the only recourse they have is for everyone else to change. They believe that it is so impossible for them to change themselves that they wish the rest of society to change for them. And so I just have to wonder for our friend here, instead of taking 2025 to focus on advocating for this fat Bill of Rights, what if she actually took 2025 and focused on improving her life and her lifestyle and her choices that she makes each and every single day? What if she actually took this year and tried to improve herself? Would she still feel all of these changes were absolutely necessary? Or would she start to understand that she was the one who led herself to being excluded from society? But maybe that's just me. Let me know down in the comments below. What do you think? I'm genuinely curious, and I love reading all of your responses. That is where we will leave things today. I thank you so much for joining me. Please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all in the next one. Bye! Look who I found. She's so warm. Oh my gosh, I should have been holding on to her the whole time I was filming. I swear, it's probably like 55 degrees in this room, if I'm lucky. Are we gonna watch the Cavs tomorrow? The Cavs are going against the Thunder. It's gonna be a hell of a game. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. Yeah, this is gonna be a potential NBA Finals preview. Just saying. I'm so excited about my Cavs right now, you have no idea. Are you excited about the Cavs, baby?